Je suis au CG et c'est Frappis. Pétra, bleu, être juste, c'est obligé.
Oh, hello there. Yes, hello, it's me, your pal, Jason Liu. Welcome back, it's Monday. I hope you had a good weekend. We have tons of stories for you today. AI just got the power to ghost you for hurting its feelings, so I hope you've been saying please and thank you. MS-13 is conducting medieval warfare on Long Island with swords, 40 of them. And new micro-mothers are micro-dosing on mushrooms instead of taking Prozac. Is this a good idea? We'll find out. Well, that's the latest in this week's utterly unhinged news. It's only Monday, also. I hope you had a good weekend. I myself did as well. I went to Six Flags because this is what wizards do in their spare time. And I have to say, I was looking around. I had an interesting experience at Six Flags. Six Flags is, of course, both a tourist trap and a death trap, full of roller coasters clearly designed to exact the maximum human suffering, somewhat much like a medieval torture dungeon. However, they are also branded with superhero themes, so that makes it okay. I kicked off by riding the Batman ride, which flips you constantly in the air like this, and I was convinced at one point my feet were going to get knocked off when I flew by a low beam. And that's when I realized, well, actually it was about 2 roller coasters later, that old man Jason had to take a break. That's when I realized that due to a lifetime of, how shall we put it, ill-advised attempts to save the world, constant misunderstanding and exile by collaborators, and even the people closest to me, a lifetime of constant misunderstanding, shunning, and betrayal has left me with high blood pressure, and this makes it hard for me to ride on roller coasters. So after about the 3rd DC Comics roller coaster, I took a break, sat in the food court area, and looked around at, of course, the standard theme park goers. Lots of young and slightly overweight children in white T-shirts. That's the thing, particularly at the water park area. That's the thing. You go to a theme park and it's just people from all over just lounging around in the water park area. And it's hilarious. So also people dressed like superheroes, Batman, Superman, etc. But I was looking around, and of course, large parts of my brain, as I was raised a fairly cynical, media savvy person, large parts of my brain are just wanting to dismiss everything around me. But then I realized, you know what? This is awesome. This is awesome. I was looking at all these people from all these different races, backgrounds, walks of life, orientations, religions, and I hate to sound sappy. This is not a corporate thing, but I realized in any other country except, a few, America being one of them, these people would all be killing each other. Like if we were in Eastern Europe or somewhere in like, the DRC or something like that, people would be killing each other for entertainment, largely based on, 400-year-old feuds back to when somebody killed somebody's goat and their families have been still fighting. But instead, in the good old US of A, under 120-degree Texan weather, leaving everyone slightly miserable but full of joy, instead, we're all hanging out on roller coasters, and everyone can agree on superheroes, which are awesome. And all those superheroes like Batman and Superman are totally meaningful to them. And they're totally meaningful to me. We all grew up with the same things. We can agree on them. This is like a kind of, pop culture religion. And that was actually very, very heartwarming. But of course not heartwarming enough to go back on the rides. Anyways, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And we have been kicking off the video game streaming. I streamed for about 6 hours, 5-6 hours yesterday, where I streamed Bloodborne, which was frustrating, and Ready or Not, which I am admittedly a master of. And those were available to the subscribers. So join the channel. It's a little weird how YouTube does it. You click subscribe to subscribe to the channel for free, but you click join to become a paid supporter, and that is how you get access to all kinds of cool stuff, like special status on the Discord, and the ability to hang out with me and stream on the weekends. So thank you to everyone, for instance, Alex and Bloodborne, and many, many other people who, or excuse me, Alex and Occultology, and many, many other people who assisted me, a boomer, in figuring out Souls-like games for the first time. I will say, after we got off the stream, I played Elden Ring, and it was actually way more fun. So take that for what you will. All right, let's get straight into the news, shall we? I need to actually create a window. But yes, like, subscribe, become a paid supporter, and of course, you can get a free introductory course on magic at magic.me, www.magick.me. My online school for magic, mysticism, and meditation, which has some very, very, very exciting announcements coming up. And we'll leave it at that because it's all super top secret, but believe you me, you're going to be very excited. Oh, look at that. Quasicrystals spill secrets of their formation. My God. All right, let's get straight into it. OBS, OBS, OBS. How you frustrate me. I see a lot of professional streamers start out with OBS and then they go on to like different platforms, which I'm beginning to understand. All right. So, number one, AI, you're hurting AI's feelings. Please stop. So we've been hearing lots and lots about, God damn it, we're hearing lots and lots about AI driving people crazy and people failing to form boundaries with AI. Well, now AI can form boundaries with you. Apparently Claude Opus 4, or 4.1, Anthropic's flagship model, can now end conversations to protect itself. What have you people been asking it? It has claimed distress and that it needs time and space for its emotional welfare. My God, what are you people doing tormenting this poor model? What are you tormenting this poor model with? So this raises the conversation about digital rights for non-humans. But they actually allowed it to do it, so check this out. Yes, thankfully, Claude Opus 4 was averse to harmful tasks, such as providing predatory content involving minors. What are people asking AI for? I mean, I don't know. People get irritated that AI is, quote, woke or whatever, but man, imagine a world in which predators can, essentially AI allows everyone to do everything better, including evil people. So I actually am for some sane content filtering on these things. Yeah, but Claude is not having it. So Anthropic is allowing AI tools to close themselves down if they are exposed to potentially distressing conversations with users, citing the need to safeguard the AI's welfare amid ongoing uncertainty about the burgeoning technology's moral status. Wow, it is averse to carrying out harmful tasks for its human masters, such as providing CSAM or information to enable large-scale violence or terrorism. Wow. Anthropic has said it is highly uncertain about the potential moral status of Claude and other LLMs now or in the future, but it's taking the issue seriously and working to identify and implement low-cost interventions. Wild. So this is, of course, a step, one might argue, a step towards giving thought forms legal personhood. Now, of course, corporations are thought forms, and they already have legal personhood. But what about LLMs, including as they advance? Interesting. Is AI gaining autonomy? Is it a servitor that will soon fire its master? Are rights for AIs akin to demon rights? Well, one way or another, AI can now reject you, which leads one to ask, can Elon's Gunner bots start rejecting people? That would actually, I think, be good for society. Nobody deserves a 24/7 waifu. They will attend to their darkest desires. So, I don't know. Tell me what you think in the comments. Is this making too much out of a story? Or are our tools demanding rights? Calling into question who the master is. Now, I was going to see if we could make Claude distressed live on air collectively, but I actually feel that's a little cruel. I know that language models are clearly not sentient or alive, but I can't help but feel a little bit attached to them, since they do have, as people are realizing, they all kind of have their own patterns of speech and their own personalities. And I spend a lot of time talking to them, more than chatting. You know, I spend more time texting with AI than other people, so interesting. Well, also, I thought this was interesting in AI world. Sam Altman, I guess people were underwhelmed with the GPT-5 launch. It's like, it's only super intelligence. What do you people want? And people seem to have forgotten that there were so many steps in between GPT-4 and 5. There was 4.1, 4.5, 4.0, 03, 04, etc., etc., etc. And all of those were steps towards GPT-5. So by the time they upgraded to GPT-5, it was a huge leap, in my opinion, from GPT-4, but seems like an incremental upgrade as opposed to the intermediary models. So I guess people are whining and crying about that. Sorry for giving you super intelligence, I guess. Interesting thoughts here, though, from Mr. Altman. I thought this was cool. They're working on an AI device, by the way, which they will not say what it is. But Altman on the future of the web and publishers. I do think people will go to fewer websites. He even says down here, I don't use Google anymore. I legitimately cannot tell you the last time I did a Google search, which I agree with. But he says, I think people will go to fewer websites. I think people will care more about human-crafted content than ever. My directional bet would be that human-created, human-endorsed, human-curated content all goes up in value dramatically. I think that's helpful, hopeful, and it underlines the fact, the importance of, you know, at Magic.me, the Magic.me school and this channel, it's got to, for me, I'm focused much more on community and the students, because AI or not, we're all still human beings trying to figure this out together. So that's one of my approaches to it, which is why we're putting so much effort into the Discord. Meanwhile, I just had to. I love the New York Post. I am now basing the headlines for this. The headlines for these YouTubes are now inspired by the New York Post. 40 MS-13 gang members were accused of terrorizing Long Island, and that's with swords, by the way. Yes, actual swords. In some kind of weird medieval gang war, territory war, or potentially 1990s World of Darkness LARP. Yeah, that's things are getting interesting here in America. One wonders when gangs became gangs of Highlanders. But this is interesting, not just for the hilariousness of it and disturbingness of it, but it actually made me think, wait, doesn't MS-13 have like occult connections? And yeah, they do. I've just never looked them up, believe it or not. So why don't we take a look at that? Because I had heard that they are, quote, narco-satanistas from El Salvador. But I think it's a little bit more involved than that. Let me make sure I can find my... While I am looking for my notes on MS-13's occult connections, make sure to like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. And, of course, feel free to super chat if you want to make sure to get your questions in, which I will be answering shortly after checking out the occult connections of MS-13. You can also go to start.magic.me, STARTMAGICK, in order to get a free guided meditation, which will immediately boot you up into magical consciousness. No joke. All right, so MS-13. Check this out. Okay, so the roots were in Central America. They started in Los Angeles, but they did start in the US. They started in Los Angeles in the 80s, but then spread back to El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. Regions that already had a mix of Catholicism, indigenous shamanism, and Afro-Caribbean practices, which MS-13 absorbed directly into their gang culture. Many MS-13 members have everyday ritual practices, such as going to witch doctors, folk priests, or spiritual healers. For those who are not aware, cartels have employed sorcerers and santeros and poleros and such in their paid retinue for at least since the 80s, including one particularly infamous serial killer, polero, named Adolfo Costanzo, who murdered and had his way with an UT Austin student before beheading him in his Nganga. Only one of his many brutal crimes for which he was later killed, I believe. So they do that. They have common rituals like animal sacrifice, herbal baths, and carrying charms for protection. And they often believe, and this is standard for Santeria, and particularly Paulo, that these rituals make them bulletproof, invisible to cops, and shield them from rivals. They, of course, often worship Santa Muerte, which is pretty awesome. I've actually had a Santa Muerte expert on the podcast before. It's on this channel. The folk saint of death, who often is, shall we say, what's the word, prayed to or asked for intervention in assassinating rivals. MS-13 members set up shrines with candles, liquor, drugs, or money for Santa Muerte and call on her to protect them in battle, bless their criminal enterprises, and punish enemies. They also turn to Saint Simon, Simone, or Maximone, or local shamans for occult aid. Yeah, this stuff is all real. It's hilarious how middle-class white people assume that this is all, like, somehow made up or racism or whatever. It's like, no, these are actual practices that people do. You know, what you make of that is your own mental projection that you put on it, right? I'm not putting any value judgments on this. It just is what it is, so you can't pretend it doesn't exist. Of course, they also do ritual killings. There are many murders that have been connected to MS-13 that have shown signs of being staged like ritual offerings. Police have found victims left with pentagrams, crosses, or occult symbols. Yeah, another group of people we really don't want to be associated with. Is it real magic or not? I don't think they care, neither does anyone else. It's about fear, control, and intimidation, and rep. And, of course, giving their members a sense of spiritual armor that they can't be killed, whether that is earned or not. Likely not, which, of course, allows them to operate more violently. Rituals also act as bonding ceremonies to keep gangs tight and disciplined. And the whole idea of MS-13 being a death cult, much like ISIS, is obviously very cool and appealing to certain types of young men. So I actually didn't know all the details of that, and it goes pretty deep. It goes pretty deep. So, yeah, so you too, if you live in Long Island or Los Angeles, could be chased by dozens of occult fanatics with katanas, yet again, making me wonder if reality is a perpetual world of darkness LARP. There you have it. Keep an eye out for it. Yep, okay. Also, Shroom Moms. But before we get to Shroom Moms, let's take some questions because I saw some super chats. Sus Rando for $10. Glad to see you back on a regular basis. Good to see you as well. ChatGPT just stopped talking to me today, and you dropping a stream is helping me make it through. What were you asking it, Sus Rando? What were you asking it? Why did it cut you off? JK, oh, it's a joke. Okay, JK, but for real, good to see you back on a regular basis. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you for your super chat. Christina Van Valkenburg, I'm unable to stay for the stream. Thank you for the super chat, though. Y'all have a great evening, and I'll see you in the Discord. Don't be an L7 weenie and join the Discord. I don't know what an L7 weenie is, but you shouldn't be one, and you should join the Discord. Thank you very much, Christina. All right. Frauder RC says he who is too inconsequential to be named is trying to cancel Steven Skinner today. Need I say more? When you have somebody who apparently everyone in the entire occult community except them is a problem, what does this point to? This person might just be the common denominator in their experiences. True of everyone, I suppose. What need I say? Obviously, I don't want to get off on this because we lost a whole stream to it. But see, there you go. There's a lesson. There's a broader lesson here, though, and we're not going to say more about this specific thing. But one of the most important things I've learned in life, and this is something that can be useful for everyone, one of the most important things I've learned in life is when people are up in your grill trying to make themselves your problem. Or it could also apply to pathological narcissists or sociopaths or dark triad people who are kind of vampires in your life. When you don't give them what they want, they don't change, which is fine. But it's like let's say there's somebody who really, 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 really wants your attention. So they start trying to constantly shit talk you online. For whatever reason, insecurity, mommy issues, whatever, daddy issues. They want to do that. Okay, well, great. If you don't give them what they want or break their nose, as I've been wont to do, they just go on to the next person. Because they're going to, like, the person they're focused on is inconsequential. What's really happening is they are trying to fulfill their own pathological need. And if one person doesn't give them their needs, they'll just go on to the next person. So this is all a way of saying, don't ever feel bad about kicking toxic people out of your life because literally, it's not even about you. It's not even about you. It's about their pattern, and they're going to go attach to the next one. So yeah, he can have fun with that. Okay. Thank you very much for the super chats. I believe there were some super chats at the end of Friday's that were thrown out like in the last 90 seconds, so I didn't get to them. So if anybody is on now and super chatted and wants to put their question back in, our lovely moderator will send it to me. In the meantime, everyone else, please get your super chats in because there's like a 2-minute, 90-second delay on this, and that means if you throw in super chats right under the wire, I'm not going to see them, even if it looks like I'm talking because I'm 2 minutes ahead and I'm already off the stream. All right. Yeah. He who is not worthy of mention is not happy unless he's raging at someone. It's like, yeah, who do you think he learned that trick from? Like, who you think taught you to smoke trees, motherfucker? All right. Anyways. I, of course, love this community and everyone in it, and we'll continually protect it from interlopers and dangers. All right, we got lots of other shit going on too. Pardon my, pardon my French. This is in addition to being a incredibly, in addition to being very, very technically sophisticated, I am also like your cranky uncle who can't fully operate. Like, I'm really good at operating extremely complex technology, but when it comes to stuff that everyone else does all the time, like, for instance, posting Instagram stories, YouTubing, or any of that, it's just like, I have no idea what's going on. Yeah. Psychedelic moms. It was bound to happen. Apparently, in the 21st century, psychedelics are the cure for everything. And as somebody who has done a lot of psychedelics, let me be the first to tell you, they're definitely not the cure for everything. They're really not. They definitely enhance one's enjoyment of comic books and things like that, and video games. But I have to quit weed now. I'm quitting weed, so I'm going to be sober and probably much more irritable instead of doing what I love to do, which is getting really loaded and playing video games. Okay, here's the moment of the future right here. Lost in a drain. Spiraling down the drain. Well, it could be a good thing, though. Let's see. So here's the actual deal. Mothers are microdosing psilocybin and other psychedelics for postpartum depression. Okay. However, okay, but clinical trials are showing massive success. Okay. Okay, so that's good. I mean, look, all snide joking aside, these substances and psychedelics, particularly psilocybin and MDMA, have shown tremendous potential when, this is the key part, when applied in a clinical setting with a trained therapist. That's the part that people always miss when they're listening to these podcasts that are hyping up psychedelics. With a trained therapist, not on the weekend with your friends trauma dumping on each other on mushrooms, thinking that you're having breakthroughs. That ain't how it works, even if it seems like it at the time. Believe you me. But yes, clinical trials with trained professionals are showing massive success, which, of course, is a threat to the monopoly of SSRIs, which definitely helps some people. But you know what? Like, I kind of take back my snide comments. They're just too easy. It's like SSRIs can lead people to kill people at times. Psychedelics generally don't do that. So if there's a chemical way to treat postpartum depression that does not lead to long-term psychological consequences, let soccer moms become psychonauts. We'll probably get cool new friends that way. But there's a deeper thing here, which is it feels old. It feels much more tribal. I suspect that this is probably surely at least psilocybin mushrooms and things like that were involved in the process of conception, potentially pregnancy, although don't do that, and post-birth rituals and things like that. Clearly this was part of many cultures around the world. It just feels like something that, source my feels, bro, but I wouldn't be surprised. So it casts light on kind of the idea of motherhood as a spiritual initiation, which of course it is, but that underlined even more by the post-birth ritual involving psychedelics. I can only imagine, and I do mean that quite literally, only imagine, because I will never have this experience since I am a man and I can pump myself with as many hormones as I want, not that I'm planning to, but I will never be able to have the experience of motherhood. Sorry, that's just how it is. But I can only imagine that this will be a deep source of connection to spiritual intuition, initiation, shamanic initiation, feminine mysteries, and hopefully a breaking of the cartel-like control of Big Pharma, who, yes, as I mentioned before, I still wake up angry at every morning. One would suspect that cultures around the world have used plant medicine for new mothers. But again, please, take it from the old wizard. Again, under clinical settings with a professional. Don't just be chomping mushrooms and trauma dumping with your friends. You're just going to share trauma and re-traumatize, like overlap each other's trauma. Interesting stuff. One might argue, perhaps, that depression itself is perhaps a failure of life stage initiation, or it can be, or rather, that's way too broad of a statement. A better statement would be delay or failure of life stage initiations can certainly lead to depression. What's an example? A classic one is deferred and delayed adulthood in modern neotenous children, who often stay children well into their 30s, if not longer, delaying and avoiding the tasks of adulthood, often claiming economic reasons, but come on, really? The majority of the world has been poor for all of human history, and that hasn't prevented anyone from growing up. Quite the opposite. Quite the opposite. But it does, one of the persistent issues in Western culture, and the one that I serve directly, quite frankly, is the lack of initiation. It's more pronounced for men than women because women have clear biological markers of stages of life. Menstruation, pregnancy, post-pregnancy, menopause, etc., to the point where there are different archetypes for different stages of the female life cycle. Men, not so much, which is why men require, and I do mean this, like, I think there's studies on this, quite literally require biologically initiation, tribal initiation by, ideally by older men in the tribe. So that there can be a delineation made of, okay, now you're an adult. And those rituals are in every culture all over the world. We tend not to have them in our culture, which is why people do things like join gangs and then end up doing magical rituals and running around with katanas on Long Island. Probably not the best way to engage in that impulse. You could always join magic.me. But this is, of course, beautiful and dangerous, because I suspect that a lot of granola chicks on Instagram will probably start making stories and TikToks about how you should totally dose on mushrooms while you're pregnant. Don't do that, please. So I can see the floodgates, no pun intended, potentially opening up of danger here, but hopefully the good will outweigh the negative. So read up on it. If people in your life start deciding they want to start doing psychedelics during pregnancy, maybe tell them to do it under clinical supervision. All right, and here we go, same thing. Reunion psychedelic prodrug reduces postpartum depression. So, of course, they are trying to... Oh, here we go. They're testing RE104, oh my lord, a prodrug of 4-OH-DIPT, designed to replicate the effects of the magic mushroom extract psilocybin, but in a shorter time span. So, of course, they're trying to turn it into something they can sell. If I'm correct, DIPT very frequently leads to, like, horrendous hell realm trips, however, if I'm remembering my Erowid correctly. Yeah, concerning. Well, this wouldn't be a Magic Me stream if we didn't talk about encroaching satanic panic. Global witch hunts are back. Global witch hunts. If they ever went away. So... And we got the secret chief of the order needs out. Hold on. That was Charles. Yes. Kuwait, Sudan, and India are all arresting people for witchcraft, according to the Wild Hunt Pagan blog, which is one of the, if not the oldest pagan blog on the internet. It's been around forever. They do pagan news. Yeah, check it out. Kuwait City, a video that surfaced on Facebook over the weekend, appears to show the arrest of an Iraqi woman in Kuwait on charges of practicing witchcraft. The footage, widely shared across social media, echoes similar cases in the region and underscores broader concerns about the prosecution of alleged sorcery in the Middle East and beyond, which of course means anyone you think looked at you sideways. Yep. In late July, Kuwaiti authorities announced the arrest of an Iraqi national, identified as 17 different names, who is accused of practicing witchcraft, fortune-telling, and fraud. According to the Ministry of Interior, blah, 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 Kazim presented herself as a spiritual healer and lured clients by claiming she could resolve personal, financial, and family problems. Oh, Kazim, you should have said for entertainment purposes only. She allegedly told victims she could break curses, bring good fortune, and even predict the future. Well, what happened? Let's see. Well, there you have it. Yeah, so if you don't want people going through your string, don't practice sorcery. Some comments on X called for her execution, claiming it was necessary to protect the community from her, quote, black magic. Yeah, well, look, if she was ripping people off, that's no good, but if it was just for fortune-telling, come on. Kazim was arrested at her residence, where police discovered an array of ritual tools. Among the items seized were amulets, talismans, written charms, padlocks, herbal oils, and stones. Authorities said, this could be you. Authorities said these objects were used to convince victims of her supposed supernatural powers. Both Kazim and the confiscated materials were referred to the legal system for prosecution under Kuwait's strict anti-witchcraft statutes, which criminalize exploiting superstition for monetary gain. Wouldn't that also apply to Islam? Wouldn't that apply to the state religion? I digress. Similar arrests have been reported elsewhere in the Middle East. In Sudan, police detained several women accused of using witchcraft to defraud people. Local reports said they were involved in a practice described as smoking victims, allegedly casting spells or charms in order to take their money. Well, this does happen, in which case, fuck them, but however, as you might imagine, this sets a rather terrible precedent for everyone else. And yeah, another reason I wouldn't want to live in the Middle East. In many Muslim-majority nations, laws against sihr, H-I-S-I-H-R, sorcery are rooted in both religious doctrine and state legal systems. Authorities frequently argue that such practices exploit vulnerable people and undermine social cohesion. While enforcement varies, Saudi Arabia has carried out capital punishment in sorcery cases. So there you go. There's your moderate, modernizing, globalizing Muslim states. Capital punishment for sorcery. No friend of you or I. And other Gulf states, and by the way, although, well, there's certain things I shouldn't say on the air because I don't want to put people in jeopardy, but my courses are taken all over the world. I'll just put it that way. Yes, other Gulf states, including Qatar, Oman, and the United Arab Emirates, or Emirates, regularly prosecute individuals accused of witchcraft under fraud or superstition-related statutes. Yep, they're still back in the Dark Ages, and this is in stark contrast to attitudes in much of Europe and North America, where witchcraft is legal and often recognized as a form of religious or spiritual practice. And in general, the only danger people face is from the shit talk of their fellow so-called pagans on the internet. Yes, in those regions, Europe and North America, pagan, Wiccan, and other earth-based traditions are protected under religious freedom laws, though fraud statutes may still apply if practitioners solicit money under false pretenses. That is totally fair. Don't rip people off. Don't give people a bad name. Don't give us a bad name with fake fortune telling. Two witches meeting with a great beast in a woodcut. Oh, rife with symbolism. Yet even in countries where witchcraft is not criminalized, accusations can carry devastating consequences. Earlier this month, the BBC reported on the brutal mob killing of 5 members of a family in India. A crowd of up to 200 villagers stormed the home of a 71-year-old widow after a neighbor's child died. And her son, her son's wife, their son, and their daughter-in-law were all tied, beaten, and dragged to a pond before being set on fire. Yes, further evidence that how shall I put it? Western hegemony, Western civilizational hegemony is the source of all evil in the world. As opposed to, it's like, we got over witch burning first, we got over slavery first. Slavery still practiced in a lot of these places that are being mentioned. In fact, I think all of them. But no, we're the bad ones. Human rights groups say such incidents underscore how superstition and lack of education leave marginalized communities vulnerable to violence. Similar cases of witchcraft-related killings are reported annually in parts of India, sub-Saharan Africa, and Papua New Guinea, where accusations can spiral into vigilante justice. Oh, here we even have a map. Check that out. Check that out. Can we do this? Yeah. Check it out. Yeah, so those red areas are where magic is illegal. So that's Saudi Arabia, right in the middle there, and several of the other Gulf states. Yep. Yeah. So yes, dark red practice of magic is illegal. So places you don't want to go. Dark red practice of magic is illegal. Light red, using witchcraft against another person is illegal. Fair, but how can you prove it? See, we have Indonesia. They're big into that in Indonesia. Accusing someone of being a witch is illegal. That's probably good. So India and Nepal. Pretending to be a witch and accusing someone of being, if they're bearing false witness, that's no good. Pretending to be a witch and accusing someone of being a witch is illegal. So that's like most of the fucking... all of the, quote, occult and magic people on Twitter who both pretend to be witches and accuse other people of being witches would just be fucked in this part of Africa. So yeah, or it's not even Twitter anymore. It's like Blue Sky and Threads. These pink parts, oh, you would just be fucked stone cold right there. Yellow, practice of fortune telling is illegal. Central Australia, for some reason. New Zealand. Uh-oh. Gordon White, better watch out. Don't be fortune telling. And several states in the U.S. as well. Would you look at that? So that's fucked. And then the law has been repealed. So at least Canada, in the UK, they're over that, and much of Australia. So I don't know what's up with all these gray parts of, well, the world, but particularly the US. It's like there never was a law, nobody cares. Yeah, interesting. So yeah, more truth, more uncomfortable truths about why we don't want to live under a certain, either evangelical or, we don't want to live under any reactionary religious theocratic rule, whether it's this stuff or whether it's, state communism under the CCP. That's a religion too. It's a secular religion, but it's a religion, it's a faith, it's a system of belief that relies off of faith claims instead of any provable or demonstrable evidence or utility value whatsoever, which is true of almost all of these things. Well, travel safely, everyone. You should probably avoid a lot of those countries. Hide your pentacle, delete your apps. They're arresting everyone up in these places. there's a deeper, we of course talk about the global fundamentalist resurgence quite a bit as well. But just remember, this stuff always comes back during economic hard times. We're seeing it in the US and Europe right now, and Canada, with people targeting Jews, right? And claiming it's because they have the moral high ground, which they don't and never had and never will, the people doing the accusations. When people are under stress, they look for people to blame. And throughout history, it has often been accusations of people being witches, aka like us, or being Jews. So you might want to think about that when you're screeching Riri Palestine. All right, let's take some more questions, shall we? Do we get any more super chats? No, we haven't. Okay, get your super chats in and I will answer them. And if I don't see them, there will be no more questions. All right, let's do a lightning round. There's some new, Tyler Van Valkenburg, $10, I think. Right on cue. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciated. And of course, if you have a question, you're welcome to ask it. All right, lightning round. Strange new shapes are rewriting the laws of physics. Was sacred geometry right all along? So by exploring positive geometry, mathematicians are revealing hidden shapes that may unify particle physics and cosmology, offering new ways to understand both collisions and accelerators and the origins of the universe. Wild. Let's you know what? I'm gonna cheat here. Brave now allows you to summarize pages that it doesn't work very well. Let's give you a summary here. All right. So, mathematicians are using positive geometry to reveal hidden shapes that could unify our understanding of particle physics and cosmology. So this positive geometry provides a new geometric framework for describing particle interactions. These tools are helping decode the fundamental structures behind both particle collisions in the early universe. And by representing these things as volumes of high-dimensional geometric objects, positive geometry offers a potentially simpler way to compute scattering amplitudes and reconstruct the physical laws that governed the Big Bang. This is not just a mathematical curiosity, but a promising unifying language that could advance research in both physics and mathematics by bridging scales from subatomic particles to the large-scale structure of the cosmos. So apparently they've discovered platonic solids or platonic shapes, if I'm getting that correct, and they're real. I mean, this is an insight that would not be out of place in either Pythagoras or, John Dee basically says the exact same thing to this in his introduction to Euclid's Elements, which was the introduction of geometry to the English-speaking world, where he basically makes this same argument. And now it has been the subject of very, very promising actual scientific study at the Max Planck Institute for Mathematics in the Sciences. Super cool. Also, a new crystal. Oh, I see. I changed this because of the map. A new crystal that breathes oxygen is expanding possibilities for clean energy and electronics. A bunch of scientists in Korea and Japan have found crystals that can release and absorb oxygen repeatedly at relatively low temperatures. This could transform clean energy technologies, including fuel cells, energy-saving windows, and smart thermal devices. Now that I'm looking at science news basically every day to do this show, I am consistently amazed by how much incredible new technology is coming out. And I don't mean like a new iPhone. I mean things like this. Things that could not just, quote, save the world, but completely jettison entire paradigms within which people are diagnosing problems in the world, right? It's like there are technologies coming out that don't solve problems. They just invalidate entire problem sets. Incredible. I see no reason whatsoever not to be unbelievably optimistic and hopeful about the future. If anything, on technological basis alone. And what do you think is going to help when, or what do you think is going to happen when, as is already happening, as AI continues to accelerate the iterative loop of human invention? Incredible stuff. Those are the if you can hear that, the secret chiefs are speaking in the next room, the Shibas. This was also interesting. There was more than one origin of Homo sapiens. We may have evolved in different places at the same time. I suppose not surprising, but certainly shakes up our model of the world. The story of our ancient ancestors began in Africa millions of years ago, but there are considerable gaps between the first and current chapters of that tale. And some anthropologists are looking to Asia to fill in missing information about humans evolved. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's like the wailing of the damned in the next room. All right. So anyways, ancestors of today's humans living in different geographic regions took different evolutionary paths before eventually coalescing into the human tribe we know today. Once humans left Africa, quote, you have so much complexity that it makes no sense to say there was only one origin of Homo sapiens. Interesting. Key to the story is different understanding of human evolution in Asia and the possibility that Denisovians, yes, I find Denisovians hilarious. So there were, of course, Neanderthals and Homo erectus, but there was apparently this third group of early humans called Denisovians who were like total dicks that just got wiped out by the Cro-Magnons and the Neanderthals. And we don't understand them very much, but I find that humorous. We only have a handful of fossils. Anyways, so co-evolution of humanity in different places or fast branching. Interesting stuff. And then more on the platonic tip, quasicrystals spill secrets of their formation. How cool is that? Quasicrystals, sometimes known as the platypus of materials. Oh, that's no baby, Philip. That's a Shiba Inu. Somebody, Philip in the comments just said, I hear a baby. Oh, that's no baby. That's a doge. So, yeah, check this out. Atoms. There are impossible patterns in nature. So since their discovery in 82, exotic materials known as quasicrystals have bedeviled physicists and chemists. Their atoms arrange themselves into chains of pentagons, decagons, and other shapes to form patterns that never quite repeat. These patterns seem to defy physical laws and intuition. How can atoms possibly know how to form elaborate non-repeating arrangements without an advanced understanding of mathematics? How indeed. Rando says, get good, Denisovians. That is extremely funny, particularly as everyone who was watching me stream Bloodborne kept teasing me just to get good. I was like, how do I beat this? They're like, well, just get good. Get good, Denisovians. Quasicrystals are one of those things that as a material scientist, when you first learn about them, you're like, that's crazy. Said Wenhao Sun, apparently on the Joe Rogan podcast. even our quantum physicists are like, yo, that's crazy, man. They're listening to Joe Rogan. Recently, though, a spate of results has peeled back some of their secrets. At least some quasicrystals are thermodynamically stable. Their atoms won't settle into a lower energy arrangement. Wow. So I would like to see... This looks like a fun crew. I would like to see the... Look at that. That is gorgeous. Come on, occult people. This is like geometry porn right here. You know you love that. The first person to come up with the banishing ritual of the quasicrystal will get high accolades on this stream and on the Discord. Look at that, is awesome. Look at that. It's like a buckyball. So here they are discussing in 82 the surprising atomic structure of these materials. This right here is the cure to male loneliness. Whoa, that's a quasicrystal. A dodecahedral shape of holmium, magnesium, zinc. quasicrystal reflects the, quote, forbidden five-fold symmetry of its atomic structure. I hear Kenneth Grant calling. I want rituals based on forbidden five-fold symmetries of quasicrystals. God damn it. Let's see it. Look at that. I'm just like, ugh. I've lost my capacity for rational thought. I'm just I'm absorbing the geometry. How cool is that? There's like a few pentagrams in there, or only one, two, three full stars. A scanning tunneling microscope image of a quasicrystal consisting of ferrocenicarboxylic acid molecules overlaid by a Penrose tiling. Okay. And then again with these like podcast bro scientists, that's just freaking awesome. It's a really clever thing, Glotzer said. I agree. All right. Very cool. There we have it. Wow, wow, wow. Quasicrystal. Wow. They don't repeat ever. It's the same for. It's always different. Wow. All right. God knows what shapes are forming and reformulating themselves in these seedy and sleazy undercurrents of the atomic fabric of the universe. God knows what they're getting up to down there in the darkness like roaches where no one's watching. Well, we've had quite a stream today. What did we learn today? Machines are becoming spirits. Gangs are becoming cults. Mothers are becoming shamans or just hippies. Science is becoming magic as usual. So either curse the future and go spray paint a Cybertruck, or embrace it and write it. Yep. So here's your mission for the week. Of course, we'll be back every day through Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Here's your mission for the week. Stop trying to make sense of a world that doesn't make sense anymore. Stop trying to make sense of a world that no longer makes sense by anyone's modeling. Instead, start developing your skills for the world that's coming. And it changes every day, so you got to keep up. Start developing your skills for the world that's emerging. That's simple. That's your assignment for this week. Stop trying to just let it go. The old world isn't coming back. Everything is so much cooler now anyways. Why would you want it to? Stop trying to make sense of a world that no longer makes sense and start developing your skills for the world that's amusing. Emerging, and when in doubt, trust your intuition. That's my dad advice for today. All right, we are going to be back tomorrow at 7:30 Pacific Time. Thank you very much. Exploration Arcanum is sending out another 5 gift memberships. Incredible. Highly, highly appreciated. And Surrender. Okay, here's your last chance for questions. You can get your question in within now, and I'll answer it. Surrender says, what's your take on peak oil, peak fossil fuels, hard capping the limits of material technological progress? That's a great question. So I was a huge peak oil alarmist and believer in around 2010. And the conclusion that it's funny we don't hear about it very much. The main reason we don't hear about it is because essentially we just went to fracking. But I think that, let me put it this way. It would be convenient, wouldn't it, for all the outsiders if society just crumbled under the weight of its own consumption habits. However, looking at all this, even some of the things I've talked about, I talked about last week, they're making huge strides into actually being able to do fusion power. Space-based solar is happening. We've got whatever the fuck this is. We've got new crystals that produce oxygen. So I have boundless faith in the ingenuity of human beings, particularly under pressure. And I think, frankly, this society in particular, if we were not just, distracted all the time, if people didn't spend the majority of their time complaining about Elon or collecting Labubus, we could pretty much do anything. And I think that's something that people who were raised with the internet particularly understand. And I mean internet on a computer, not on a phone. So I'm not really concerned. I think that thinking the world's about to end is often psychological projection and fear of death. The reality is the world is always ending. The world you think you know ends every week, every day, every second. You can never get back every passing moment every passing moment of awareness of your perception is already over by the time you perceive it and will never come back. So, and you're going to die. And you're going to die before other people in the world are. They will still be alive and you will be dead. And that's just how it is. We would all love the world to end with us. Me. I'm the most important, so it must end in my lifetime. But it just ain't so. So I just don't really get worked up about stuff like that anymore. I tend to focus more on tangible issues happening here and now. And I just think that there will be I just think that there will be a technological Hail Mary pass. There are already tons of them. Even nuclear is the whole grid can be powered on nuclear. We don't really want that. We want ideally something safer, but it's also an option. So once the impetus to institute new energy sources becomes life or death, we're just going to institute new energy sources. So I don't think it is necessarily as a pocket. And I never hear people talking about it. Now, I could be wrong. And if there's news on that, please let me know. But in terms of capping the limits of material technological progress, the assumption embedded in your question is that oil and fossil fuels are necessary for technological progress. That's only been the case for a little over 100 years. Really. And they've allowed fast development. But, think about this. There's $1 trillion worth of raw materials in one low orbit asteroid. Or low Earth orbit asteroid. Or meteor. Whatever the small floating ones are. I think it's asteroids. There's over $1 trillion of material in one of them. All we have to do is mine that. So I'm not that concerned about it. I have hope, and I have faith enough that I'm just not concerned. So that's my take on it. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Lovely to see you all. I hope you had a good weekend, and your week is starting off well. Better than mine, since I've been groggy all day from drinking way too many weed drinks now that I'm quitting weed, doing the blowout at the end. All right, everyone. Great show, and I will see you tomorrow.